Welcome to the Encourager Podcast. I'm Rebekah Scott. I own Rebekah Scott Designs, where I am the designer and the CEO. I believe that if you desire an active, impactful role in your children's lives while simultaneously wanting to provide an income for your family, then being a mompreneur is exactly what you need to work at home. The Encourager Podcast is my way of inspiring and motivating you with insightful knowledge, tips, and advice from myself and other successful working women who put their families first. So let's take action and encourage one another. It's official. My book, Equipped to Execute, Guiding Moms to Joyfully Impact Their Families and Business, is available on Amazon.com and on my website, equippedtoexecute.com. You no longer need to pre-order. I'm staring at the books in my studio. It's so exciting. But if you could be so kind, if you do order from Amazon.com, to leave me a review. These are really important in the book industry, and I'm learning all about it, and it's been a great joy to learn everything I can. So go ahead and leave me a review if you'd be so kind on the Amazon.com, and check out my website for the other offers that were available with the pre-orders, such as my backpack, the Leah, super cute, and the wristlet for summer when you're out and about. So take a peek and order the book, Equipped to Execute. Thank you, encouragers. Hello, encouragers. Today's episode will be interesting and fun and comical, I hope. I have a very cute man here in the studio with me today, and we are going to talk marriage, or at least some of the tips and tricks that have helped us in our marriage. We have been married for 13 years, 14 years in a month by the time this airs, and been together for 17, which would be 18 years. You have to say the days and the hours too. This is my husband, Nick Scott.
Hello, everybody.
So he's actually super well-spoken. I'm the one who gets all nervous and giggly like a 14-year-old girl. He'll probably be very well-spoken. But my executive assistant thought it would be fun to have him on the podcast just to talk about marriage a little bit. You know, when you get in your marriage and you think, well, this is just our groove. This is how we do it. You don't look at it from the outside looking in. But I thought, well, maybe it would be interesting to explain a little bit about our marriage, because as we know, it's difficult to hold up all of our roles. Not impossible. We've been fully equipped, like my book, Equipped to Execute. We're fully equipped with everything and all the roles that God has given us. We just need help with executing. And one of those very, very important roles for me is my marriage to Nick. And some of the things, we're going to talk about some of the things that we do to make sure that we prioritize each other, which is important. And then also just get honest about what kind of help we've had to seek just to try to make it all work. Being a wife is a joy and a gift, but it is also a challenge to keep it that way. And I am also a farmer's wife. And if you're familiar, we live in the Midwest. And so a big part of our industry, which Nick knows way more than I could ever talk about, is agriculture. So there are seasons in a farmer's wife's life where you are like a military wife, and they're gone till 2 or 3 in the morning, and you're doing all of the meals and all the pickups and all the drop-offs and all of the consoling and all of the changing diapers and everything while they are in the field. And I knew I would marry a farmer because I was a ranch girl, but East River farming is a whole different gamut, so to say. And it's still beautiful and wonderful. But by the end of harvest or the end of planting, I am begging for him to be back. And unfortunately, more so begging him just to be my helpmate than rather like I missed him romantically, but more mechanically. I need the help. And we are in the middle of, well, no, we're like maybe a third left of planting left. And so we have rain this week. So I get to have him sitting next to me. But otherwise, it would be a Friday night here. This is when we're recording. It's a Friday night. That's how awesome and cool and sexy we are, honey. We record podcasts.
Boring.
Come on now.
Very exciting to be sitting across from my beautiful wife. Better than windshield time.
That's true. I don't know. So you do like windshield time as well. Anyway, so I get to have him in the studio. So I thought I'm going to narrow him down right now. Otherwise, we're still not done calving. So Nick will be busy finishing off our calves this year and then moving into our new house. And Nick is the general contractor, which is like official title, but he's not paid like that. He's just doing all the work on the house. He's a jack of all trades. I can't say enough good about this man, but we'll get into talking a little bit about what we think kind of makes our marriage work. But we're always the first ones to confess we are always learning. And I read a lot. Nick is starting to get there, but he more or less listens a lot, meaning not to me preaching to him, but to podcasts and books and things that I say, would you please read this? Because it doesn't come naturally for him to want to do those things. I think that's what you would say, right? But it comes naturally for him to want to please me. So that's why he downloads those episodes and those audio books so that we can both learn together.
It's easier to please you than to make you mad.
Okay. We should say how we met.
I was going to say, do people know
if they
beginning?
The beginning. If they listen to my first podcast series, they would know a little bit about it. This is probably the most eye contact we've had in a week.
How you doing?
I know. I feel like we should shut the microphone off and go talk because we never get to do this. Okay, we met at church camp long ago. I like the way you tell it better. So you go ahead.
So there's a camp out at Storm Mountain out in Rapid City. And that's where we first met. And I was a camper there for probably 2 years. And then after that, I became a junior counselor. So the junior counselors are responsible for helping the new campers come in and carry their bags and check them into their cabins and just show them around. And so I was walking up towards the registration cabin. And I saw this van pull up, and this, what were you, sixth grader?
No, dude, seventh grade.
Seventh grade?
That's totally mature.
Yeah. Like I said, sixth grade. And she had long, straight, blonde hair, and I didn't remember who else was with her. And so I obviously ran over and grabbed her luggage and helped carry her to her cabin. And our pastor said, who knew that carrying her bags that one day would lead to a life of baggage.
Because the dean of the camp, is actually the guy that married us. So he gave us a really good sermon. And you know how, like, you don't remember, other than Nick does a few weddings, you don't remember your sermon at a wedding, or like if you go to a wedding, you don't remember their sermon. People still come to Nick and I and say, man, you guys had the best wedding sermon, because Jerry Stolp knew us so well that he watched us fall in love literally at camp, then watched us continue in love, then watched us get engaged at camp, and then gave our wedding sermon. And it was just based on how we saw the two of us develop in Christ and then also develop in love with one another. So his line during the wedding sermon was, who knew it would carry a lifetime of baggage, which is also funny because I'm making bags still.
Purses.
Anywho, so that's how we met. Nick proposed at that camp and everything. And we live, as you guys know, we live on a farm outside of Valley Springs. Nick is fifth generation on this farm. And we live in the 140-year-old farmhouse. I love this house. I say it all the time. I would buy it, even though we just bought another one. I would buy this house in a heartbeat. And Nick is like totally over it because he grew up in it. So he's like, I'm over it. Get me out of here. Okay, so that's how we met. And then we are both independently employed. Nick does work for the farm, but he also owns an excavator, dump truck, and trailer. And thanks to the Dave Ramsey program, we own all of them. It just dawned on me that Nick, I didn't feel like he had as much joy with farming as I got to have with my job. Because he said, as soon as he became debt free, he said, you can launch Rebekah Scott Designs. And I did. And I thought, I get to do my dream every single day. I love what I do. Love it. You know, I preach about it. And I said to Nick, he was kind of thinking it too. You need to do what you love. What do you love to do? What were you doing at the age of 4? And kind of thought, and he said,
playing with Tonka toys.
Yeah. Digging in the dirt. And he really liked construction, and he really liked the excavating part of construction, digging the basements and working on the roads and stuff. And so not so much me, because I was more nervous about it, but Nick was like, all right, I'm going to buy an excavator. And so we held each other's hands tight and bought the excavator. And you can always tell when he's been on an excavating job because his joy is very evident. And he's in his happy place, just like I am when I get to do mine all day long. So part of our happy marriage is making sure that the other one is completely happy with all the roles in their life. And that includes work.
Absolutely.
Yes. Okay. You want to go first?
Best tips for a strong marriage.
Yes.
I'm doing like top 5, starting with 5.
Okay.
I would say in the beginning of our marriage, the most struggle that we had was through finances.
Oh, yes.
And it was, I could care less about the bills as long as I knew that I was bringing in money. And I just assumed that Becca would take the responsibility of paying the bills, which she did. Mm-hmm. And I didn't care what we had in our accounts. And every time that Becca would want to talk to me about them, it was just another fight. Mm-hmm. And I dreaded it. Maybe it's because I never heard my parents talking about money. Mm. So my number 5 would be to know each other's financial plan. Mm-hmm. And I'm not talking, okay, Becca has her account, I have my account, no. We pay separate.
No.
If you're married, you're as one. Mm-hmm. You need to have one joint checking. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Obviously, we have how many accounts, mm-hmm. with your business and with my business, mm-hmm. but we have a general account that we pay our bills from.
Yeah. And even all of our other accounts, we both sign, making sure that the bank knows that both of us have access to everything, because money is such a trust issue. I never understood that. Like, we have family that they would have separate checking, and we're like, what? Why? It's such a trust issue that I liked gathering our money together instead of treating it separate.
My money is your money, and your money is
our money.
Mine.
You just say that because... Anyway, so one of the best things that we did was take the Dave Ramsey program, and we took it within our first year of marriage. By the grace of God, it was offered to us. And I mean, we paid for the course and everything, but it was just brought up in conversation. And I am so proud of us because to this day, we don't argue about money. We talk about money for sure. Like, where's it going? What's coming? Do you need to go collect on some of your construction jobs? Do I need to make some more sales with the purses, whatever it is? So we definitely talk about money. And I talk about that business meeting I have once a month, but we don't fight about money. So we would recommend the Dave Ramsey, or at least having some kind of financial plan. Another good one that I've talked about before is that we have a rule of no cell phones on the couch. Truthfully, Nick does actually have his cell phone next to him, but he doesn't turn it over or flip it over while we're spending that time together. And I'm not sure why you have it next to you. You probably wouldn't need to. But we're both like, if we're going to commit the time to spend together, whether we watch a show or talk, and a lot of time we start the show and then I'm like, pause, I got to talk to you. And so Nick will pause in and make eye contact and talk to me because I got to get it off my chest. And it might not be an argument, just something I want to update him on or tell him about. That's just been a really good thing to keep us connected together, is not two people always on their cell phone. It drives me nuts when people in restaurants or in their cars, or even when we go on date night, the people next to us, they're
family events.
Oh, yes. Oh, let's not go there. But it's important to the two of us that we put our cell phones away and make eye contact, and that we teach our kids what it's like to be in a relationship that's important. The other thing that I highly prioritize is, like the Bible tells us, to greet your loved ones with a hug and a kiss. So Nick and I are both independently employed. Sometimes I get to see him 4 to 6 times come through my studio door. And while I'd like to say it's consistent every time, it's not. But for the most part, when you walk in the door, I greet you with a smile and a welcome to the space, because I want him to feel welcome and loved in his own home, and that I have been anticipating him returning. And so if I can get a kiss and a hug on it, hallelujah. But lately, with the size of business, there's always a lot of people in here, so it might be a little showy if I kissed you every time you came in. Unless you want me to, I'll buck up and everyone will just have to watch. But that is something that I highly recommend. And do you appreciate that, or vice versa?
Any form of affection is great.
Okay. Yes. Yes, but I would like the same thing. And Nick's working on it. But I'm like, dude, when I come in the door, usually because I'm work from home mom, I'm here. So he's the one that gets this awesome homecoming. And mothers out there, don't you know that when the dad gets home, you're like, what? It's like he's a king and we might as well lay down the capes and everything. But when the mom comes home, they're like, oh, mom's home. So I said that to Nick a couple times. So he will get up and say, mommy's home, or at least say the words, because sometimes he's piled up with kids and can't get up literally. But he'll say, mommy's home. And his tone of voice is that this woman needs to be greeted and excited to see her as well. So I appreciate that.
My number 4 advice or tip would be, as hard as Becca works, as hard as I work, you need that time apart. So when you do come back together, it is rewarding. Whether it's Becca gone at shows, whether it's her going out visiting with any one of her other friends, she needs that time away from work. I need that time away from the house, whether it's working or hunting or riding my horse. You guys need that time apart from each other, so you do appreciate when you do come back together. The whole phrase, work hard so you can play hard. As much as we work hard, when we do go on vacations, I don't know what that definition is, but
sometimes it's 2 days. That's all right.
Yes,
own it.
Staycations. When you do go on vacations, it's that much more memorable. The kids remember it that much more. It's not every summer we're going somewhere big, or it's not every weekend we're going to the lake. When we do go on vacations, it is memorable. Mm-hmm. Not saying that going up to Nan and Papa's isn't memorable.
Oh, it is. That's my mom and dad.
But yeah, you guys need to work hard, and in return, you'll play hard.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Your 3.
This one, I don't know if we're out of number. We might even be like at 6 tips now or something. But this one, tell your husbands, and then they'll be like, who is this Nick Scott? I have got to get him. Because here's what I'm going to tell you. When we decided that I would nurse all of the babes, and I decided to go for a year, to each their own, dude, or women, I totally understand all the intricacies of nursing and whatever method you come up with, whatever you do. Remember my podcast, Show Them Grace. Anyways, Nicholas would get the baby and bring the baby to me in bed so I could nurse the baby. And then he would put the baby back in the crib. Shock. I know. And he's mine. But I had to get to the point where I'm like, don't tell other people. We're going to get in total trouble, because I felt like I was getting away with something. But we kind of just decided, because my day is so busy and I'm doing 2 jobs. I'm raising the kids, which is my choice, our choice. And then I'm also working and managing a lot of people, that the night duty is Nick's, because I am on full-time day duty. The night duty is Nick's, and he is committed to that. And I am so, so very grateful that he did that for me. Some nights, if it got past 3 or 4 times, then I'm like, okay, listen, I got to go get the kid, because that's not fair to Nick.
It does help that I fall asleep awfully easy.
Yes, you could.
So I can hand the baby off and be out sleeping in 2 seconds again.
Yeah. But that was really, it was just a way that he honored me. And I don't even know how it really came about, but I kind of probably made the argument, listen, I'm exhausted. By the time I get to this bed, I would like to stay here as much as possible. I move all day long. This is a decision that we made. And so he is just on night duty. Now, Pixon is 2, so night duty is less. But he will still get up if somebody talks in the night. He will still be the one to get them. So that was, I'm extremely grateful for those years of waking up with babes. And in our teenage years, I hope that we can return to that, because you'll be the one wanting to chase down the girls' boyfriends anyways. So.
Another one of my tips would be obviously praying together. I've talked to other couples or counseling some of them, and I asked the question, number 1, do you guys pray? And they might say yes, maybe not as much as I want to. And then my question is, do you pray together? And more than likely they say no. just being that awkwardness. And I would say there shouldn't be anything awkward with praying with your spouse, praying with your best friend. Just the time that we set aside is right before we fall asleep. We're laying in bed and we just say a prayer every night. I can remember maybe on one hand the nights that we don't pray together.
That's probably being generous.
Okay, two hands.
Yes, but we do try to prioritize it because you go to bed in a different mode. And even if you go to bed and you're like a little perturbed, if he starts praying, I'm like, oh, fine. You're totally right. And then
what did you say?
You are totally right.
Thank you.
And it does feel better. So I encourage, like Nick said, to pray together.
It just brings you together that much more.
Yeah. And then you get in a rhythm and you can remember, like you always say, let Becca know how much I love her. And so it's a reminder of like a third party reminding me. And that's very special to me. I would say talking through expectations. We only started this in like maybe the last 5-6 years, where we would go to these events and then we'd be really torqued afterwards because like my expectations were this and his expectations were this. And I'm like, well, why were you thinking that?
We would be torqued or you would
Mostly
be torqued?
me. Okay. Mostly me. Yeah, but you would get torqued about some of them too. And I'm like, why? We need to talk this through. So now when we're going to an event, meaning a weekend at my mom and dad's or a rodeo or a family event on his side, we're like, okay, wait a minute. What are our expectations here? Like, do you want to watch the kids during this event? Am I supposed to get them all the food? Like, do you just need this you really want to visit with your classmates, so you want me to take care of things? Or if we're going to entertain and have a bunch of people over for a fire, like, what are the do you want me to cook the food and clean the food, or do you just want me to entertain? We'll worry about the mess afterwards. But we talk about our expectations because then we're not let down, because Nick is able to say in advance, I really don't want to be holding children on my hip this whole night. I haven't talked to this classmate, which actually is probably something that's never come out of your mouth. But you will say, I really do need to talk to this person. So I'll say, okay, I'll just, concentrate on making sure you get that time with that classmate or that friend or whatever it might be. And then Nick is better about like being a little more lax on giving me the eyeball about cleaning something up or making sure that the burgers are done, because I don't know how to start the grill. So that's also an expectation. We're like, I can't start the burgers because I don't know how to start the grill. So, and the expectations too in our day to day, he knows that I work Wednesday nights late. It's just the agreement that we have. And I started it in the summer maybe 2 summers ago. And I was like, listen, I have to work on Wednesday nights late, or Thursday and Friday get thrown way off. And I said, just make that like your night. Like if you want to go rope down at the arena that's close here, go do that. But just I felt less guilty telling him I need Wednesday nights. And then he just knows, yep, it's Wednesday night. Becca's going to work late. And that expectation just cleared up any ugliness. So know each other's expectations for events or for your work schedule.
Daily. I mean, that's...
Oh, yeah.
Like we said, what are you planning on doing today? Well, I have field work. I have this house basement to go do. I have grain to haul. It's the expectations of, are you going to be in for dinner? Then I need to let her know that so she has some food for me.
Mostly meat. Because like for us, if my husband's not going to be home, I'm like, sweet, cottage cheese and fruit. But if he's going to be home, I'm like, oh, we should have some meat.
Protein.
Yeah.
I guess that's a good lead in to my next one was communication. Mm-hmm. It's, if you guys aren't talking, things are going to go down the hill fast, and it's just gets ugly when, number one, if Becca's gone all day and we don't talk over the phone at least, or if she's busy and I'm busy and... I was just going to say, I'm gone all day. You're the one who's gone all day usually. But yeah, we have to talk through, where are you? And the times that we have fights or get angry with each other, it's because we haven't communicated. And I didn't know where he had been, and it's no more his fault than it is my fault for not reaching out and asking what is the plan today? Do you expect to be home, or what are you thinking? And then we can read each other's tone too. Yeah, I mean, in our jobs, I mean, there's that new invention called, a cell phone.
Oh, shush. He's shaming me right now. I hope you can understand his tone.
When I want to call my wife, I call her cell phone and I want her to answer. Obviously, I want to talk to her.
That hasn't happened in a long time.
And likewise, I mean, when she's calling me and in my business, I got to have both my hands working the whole time. Mm-hmm. So that's why I got a Bluetooth. It's so much easier for me to answer the phone and keep working with that. And we have no excuses why not to call each other during the day in our line of businesses. So,
I was talking about that list with purpose, everyone. And one of my goals is to have 3 touch points with Nick. That includes calls, because Nick and I are both very independently minded and we work independently. So unfortunately, we're like freaks about getting it done, but it doesn't serve our marriage very well because we don't need each other sometimes. So we've learned to like lean on the other one. Actually, I do need you, because our humanness and our sinful nature is like, I can conquer the world by myself, but that's not what we're meant to do. So we have to be really good about communicating and leaning and becoming dependent on the other one to make it through this awesome circus we created. Okay, and he's shaming me because I'm Laura Ingalls Wilder with my phone. I try not to say that anymore, but for the longest time, I didn't even have my ringer turn up, and he would just get so upset. He's like, I've been trying to call you. And I'm not a cell phone wearer. I don't carry it in my back pocket or carry it around me. I just set it down somewhere, and I don't have any beeps that come on it that notify me of anything. Because you've heard me talk about it. There's things that I need to prioritize, and that is my kids and my family, and I'm not going to be that mom that's on her cell phone all the time. But I've gotten better about it, and I think it's funny because me and Nick's text string is like super weird. It's like 6 long, because we still have such a rhythmic for being together so long that I'll just call him. It's almost quicker for me to call him and get my answer than it is for us to text, because he knows I'm not going to text for like another hour. So it's interesting. I'm really glad we met when we did, because we've developed that relationship outside of text. We don't have to understand each other's tone in a text message. You have some more? Okay. I would say this too, just so that nobody is disillusioned, that we have a strong marriage, but we're always working to make it stronger and better. And we have sought marriage counseling as well. And we highly recommend that. If therapy and counseling is something that you need, please, please, please go and do that. And we did that. And, it's not, the first one isn't always the best. We did learn that too. We're like, oh, wait, I guess you got to try a couple different counselors to figure out what works best. But it is worth it to save it. Divorce is not an option. Like I talk about my priorities. If that was ever talked about, then I would have to quit everything, because that's one of my priorities. And so if that's not an option, then we got to do everything to make sure that we don't get to that zone. So I encourage you to seek that out if that's something that you need. And we just want everybody to know that we have also seek that out, and just to be humble about it and let you know that we're real too.
I think, that communication, deals with everything. I think the stars for Becca and how honest and forthright she is. When I screw up, when I disappoint her with certain things, she's not going to sweep it under the rug. She's not going to just bite her tongue and let me, stumble and let me continue to, do those things. So she will confront me when it happens. That night, she puts me in my place. And I love her for it. And she apologizes, and she might say, I'm sorry that I bring this up. And I would rather solve those issues when they happen than a year down the road, she blows up at me and it's too late. And then what do? Then you do have to go see a psychiatrist. And
probably on your own too, because you won't be together.
Yeah. So, I am so thankful for the wife that I have.
Thank you.
That she does keep me on my toes.
We joke because I'm the roller coaster. I'm either really happy or I'm really mad. Thankfully, I'm usually really happy. And Nick is like even keel. Like if I could demonstrate a straight line, that's what Nick's like. He's never really happy, or he's never, I shouldn't say that. He's never really highly excitable. I can count on one hand the amount of times that I've really got him like super hyped up, excited.
She bought me a gun.
That was one of them. And then he doesn't go too low either. But I am the extreme of that. Really high, really low. Thankfully, not really low a lot of times. But it's nice that when I am low, Nick's still even. And when I am high, he's still even. So we thankfully match up good in that regard.
We fit good.
Oh, shush. Okay, let's tell the card story. I'm playing cards at your grandma's.
Okay, Grandma, if you're listening, I'm sorry.
She's
ahead.
86.
Go ahead.
Grandma, the house that we bought, lives 50 yards from us. And we went up there to play cards one night. And I don't even know what we were playing. That's why it doesn't make any sense for me to tell a story. I do not understand cards. I play cards because you want me to. But I'd rather just chit chat and visit during it. But
So we're playing hearts.
Oh, okay.
And it was our turn to lead. And my grandma is a card shark. So obviously they were winning. My grandma and grandpa were winning. And so I was trying to do everything I could to
cheat,
do a better job of winning. So I looked over at my beautiful bride and I pointed down to my ring, pointed at the diamonds.
Okay. So this is where it goes. And I'm like, okay, he's pointing at his ring. He means love. He means he has hearts. I got it. So I go to lay down my hearts and Nick's like rubbing his forehead. I'm like, oh crap, I screwed it up. What did he mean?
As my grandma looks over at me thinking, what's going on? I'm like, nothing's going on.
So she like caught him red-handed. And what he really meant is literally, I have diamonds.
Diamond ring. Diamonds.
Is that like how a guy thinks and how a woman thinks? I'm like, okay, romance, love, hearts. And he's like, diamonds, obvious.
Let's just say the 50-yard walk home that night
was alone.
Was in the dark. Never again.
Oh, gosh. And I love board games. So I always try to gear Nick towards, let's play board games. Because they're expressive and fun. You can get to know each other. And cards, I don't know anything about you. It's just strategy. I'll still play with you. And then my last thing would be especially for women's, because that's the majority of our audience, but I invite you to please share this podcast with your hubbies and with your loved ones so that they can listen and agree or pick up whatever they need to from this podcast. I know that God will bless it. It's a servant heart, women. I read a book when we were only married for like 2 or 3 years called A Woman After God's Own Heart. And it was life-changing for me in my marriage because it taught me how to be a servant of Nick, and not in a submissive, weird, what do I want to say, authoritative way, but in a very loving Christian way. And it made me really think about how I served him food, how much joy I found by cooking when I didn't used to have it. I would find joy with it, and serving him by just greeting him at the door. And it has all kinds of advice on how to treat the role as a wife, because you've been formed after God's own heart and what he intended for our role as wives. Not as much as mothers, but as wives. And it does talk about motherhood too, but more so wives and how to have that servant heart. And it took a whole new take on the whole feminist movement and all of that, and really just a way that God wants us to do it. And I just highly recommend it. It was one of the best things for our marriage. All right, Mr. Scott, do you have anything to close?
Well, of course, my number one tip.
Oh boy, I gotta think who listens to this quick and see if I can recall anybody.
Every marriage has to have healthy sex.
Jeez.
Yes, I said it.
And
it's and I want to say healthy sex because without the last 3-4 tips,
yes,
it's not going to be healthy.
Right.
And our marriage, I would like to say, is healthy.
Most days.
Most days.
Most days. Yeah.
And is that a gift, a blessing that we've received?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. But it's something that you have to work at.
Oh, yeah.
Anymore, hearing all these couples that are living together, obviously, okay, some of them make it work. And there's a lot of them that don't.
Most don't.
And it's sad because some of the reasons are, well, we had to make sure that we were sexually compatible. And I just laugh at them, the guys that tell me that. And I say, you're a man. She's a woman. You're compatible. That's the way God made us. And I would.
You do not need to experiment with it. Trust me, you'll be compatible on that night. Yeah.
I would like to say that Beck and I have been blessed that way. You know, God's rewarded us for our decisions, and I hope he continues for the next.
Are you doing the math in your head how old you are?
Long time.
And here's a side note. He wrote these little notes. Do you know which number healthy sex was?
Number 1. Of course.
So I was like, we cannot start with that, Nick. So anyways, I hope this has been joyful and that you have taken some away from this. And we'll just, hey, you download this one. First of all, subscribe to the podcast, please. That helps us with ratings and attracting really cool guests like this guy. And if it's downloaded a lot, then I get to have you back on. Okay, so.
Sweet.
So tell all your friends what your wife does.
Number 1.
Jeez. Anyways, thanks you guys. Until next time, we got this. Thank you so much for tuning in today. If you have not done so, please subscribe to the show so that the latest episode will always be conveniently available on your device. You can also find the show notes on my website at shoprsd.com. That's shop with R as in Rebecca, S as in Scott, and D as in designs.com. The Encourager Podcast tab is at the bottom of my website, which holds some great resources like my recommended book page, how to rate and review my podcast, and reflection guides that correspond with each episode. Each review and rating is so valuable to us. I sincerely hope you feel encouraged and empowered to tackle anything that comes your way this week. Remember to be grateful, humble, and kind. Then joy will come ushering in. Until next time on The Encourager.